It's a shame to have to speak after that. I love water communion. It's one of my favorite events of our UU church calendar. I love the feeling it creates. I love that it draws our attention to our voluntary and purposeful association. I love that it highlights this beautiful experiment of love and patience and laughter and struggle and support and tenderness and exuberance that is intentional community. We are here together on purpose and because we want to be. Because somewhere deep in our bones is the wisdom that this is important. And today, as we celebrate this wisdom, we do so symbolically, and it may come as likely no surprise to you that I love symbols. I love symbols, and I love that we bring some symbol of our experience and some symbol of the character of a notable event, some symbol of meaning in our lives, and we pour it forth, an emptying of sorts, into a container of similar such symbols. And as much as this basin is, so too is this church the container of mingled meanings, collected, unlost. Our lives and our characters, our souls, our understandings, these are fluid. They are always fluid. And now they are in solution, mixing. They are changing each other and forming one substance with many applications. And what is this substance capable of? What is water capable of? So here's some interesting bits of trivia that may or may not work with the metaphor of water communion as community. You'll decide whether or not they do, or you'll struggle to make them all fit and figure out how they will. So Earth's surface is 0.3% of the world's fresh water. 30% of fresh water is in the ground. So remember that when we have our soil communion in November. Water is 4.3 billion years old. And there is the exact amount of water on Earth today as when the Earth was formed. Water is never totally consumed. It always recycles itself in one form or another. An egg that is fresh will sink in water, but a stale one won't. The average person can live about a month without eating food, but can only live a week without water. And each day, almost 10,000 children under the age of 5 die as a result of illness contracted by the use of impure water. It takes 1,500 gallons of water to process a barrel of beer. 1,000 gallons of water are required to produce 1 gallon of milk. It takes 120 gallons of water to produce one of those eggs, which will sink or float. 95% of a tomato is water, and 70% of an elephant is water. And though both beans are mostly water, the details provide the difference, and you would be wise to note them before putting one or the other on a pizza. So water is resilient, adaptive, flexible, and capable of changing forms and states. Water can transmit sickness, but without water, there is no life. Water makes power. Water is reflective, water is adaptive, and water knows when an egg is rotten, and water cleans. Intentional community is resilient, adaptive, and flexible, and capable of changing forms and states. Intentional community can transmit sickness, but without intentional community, there is no life. Intentional community makes power. Intentional community is reflective. Intentional community is adaptive. Intentional community knows when an egg is rotten. An intentional community cleans. So here is our gathered water, our community in symbol. It is maybe a gallon. It would take 1,000 of these to produce enough milk to have a cookie party. It would take 120 of these to produce just one egg. So there's not enough of us to make even breakfast for one of us. But what we can do is so much more than that. What water can do by sitting and just being. And here I'm actually talking about the water sitting and smiling or looking at me curiously right before me. What we can do is so much more. This water. As I mentioned last week, our water saves lives. Just by being here and welcoming whatever walks through our doors, just the same way as we welcome any other water that walks through those doors. And more by drinking deep from their well and our well of experience, and their want and our want of healthy connection. Just by being here, like water, we save lives. We are also full of impurities. And thank Neptune for it. When water is cleaned of all impurities, like it is when they use it to create and clean microchips, when it is that clean, it will kill you rather than quench your thirst. It is considered an industrial solvent. Purity is not good for us. And while it is also true that water, that we as a group can and do carry some sickness, some impatience, some reactivity, some bad boundaries, mistrust, we are happier for it. How is that possible? These are impurities. These impurities are nothing more than invitations to us to evolve into our better selves. That is why our covenant is so important. Our covenant secretly says, "Thank you for your impurities, and you are welcome for mine." For our own lack of perfection is revealed, trust me on this, it is revealed in community. But that community, this community, is strong enough and merciful enough and kind enough to hold us together such that the flow of life, our rough edges rub off and we become smooth. We are here to hold each other accountable, but to hold each other accountable in kindness, and therein realize our strength to develop a power that can truly transform the world as it transforms us. To hold each other accountable in kindness, and therein to realize our strength and develop a power that can truly transform the world as it transforms us. And this community, Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation, has so many ways and opportunities to live into our covenant. You're doing one right now. Sunday services. You can participate in so many ways here. Buildings and grounds, or volunteering to teach, talking with a board member, diving into meditation or spiritual poetry, helping craft this moment in the worship associates, or singing in the choir. working for justice, helping serve one another, and pastoral care. And much more than those that I've named. And all of it gloriously, invitingly imperfect and accountable and kind. A veritable waterfall of ways to transform and sustain, viva la revolution, ourselves, even as we transform and sustain the world.